I want to support our farmers.
We've been here since 4 a.m. This morning.
4 a.m, people wake up to milk cows. Farmers wake up to block Tesco depots. When a country needs tractors to be heard, the government is broken.
Ed, just tell us why you've wanted to do this protest, because this is a bit of a step from other protests. This is more direct action you're taking this morning.
Well, it's becoming quite desperate now. The industry is in absolute turmoil and we can't carry on for much longer as we are.
Like, subscribe and comment fast. Should inheritance tax on family farms exist at all? In London, they live by meetings. In the countryside, they live by seasons. One side talks about strategy. The other side calculates fertilizer. And when a government chooses slogans over reality, farmers pay first. Now look closely. 3 hits, not one misses. Tax, planning, prices. Then Christmas arrives. They U-turn. Start with inheritance tax. They open with a threshold of £1 million. Sounds like targeting the wealthy, right? No. On a farm, 1 million isn't a palace. It's land, sheds, machinery, working assets, not cash. That's the first lie in the whole debate. Pretending farms are sitting on piles of money. Most aren't. They're asset heavy and cash thin. So the tax becomes a forced choice. Sell land, sell kit, or borrow more. And selling land isn't downsizing, it's selling the engine. Sell the engine, the farm doesn't run. Borrowing more is not a magic trick either. Interest doesn't care about your feelings. Banks don't accept resilience as payment. After months of pressure, tractors, protests, campaigning, Labour dumps a U-turn right before Christmas. 1 million becomes 2.5 million. Spouses or civil partners can pass on up to 5 million between them. If 1 million was correct, you don't suddenly multiply it. If 2.5 million is correct, then what was the point of months of panic? That move is the confession. The original number was wrong, or it hit the wrong people. Now, I can already hear the defenders. Loopholes, fairness, people buying farmland to avoid inheritance tax. Fine. If the target is avoidance, you hit avoidance, clean and precise. You don't treat every working farm like a criminal tax scheme, because the people with real wealth don't get trapped. They get advised. They restructure. They glide through. The ones who get crushed are the ones without a legal team on speed dial. And then comes the nastiest detail, the 7-year trap. The rule is simple. Pass it on. Live 7 years, you're safe. Die sooner, and HMRC turns up with a reverse card. That's how people get boxed in.
Everything we're doing it is for our kids. It's their future. And everything is just going against us.
This government needs to realise it's never been hungry.
Older farmers, families dealing with serious illness, no time to plan, just a countdown. That isn't fairness. That is cruelty written in paperwork. Policy uncertainty is a tax of its own. Farms plan in seasons, not headlines. Now, why does any of this matter? Because while Westminster plays with thresholds, farming is being killed by maths. At the Tesco blockade, one farmer said something that should silence the Treasury instantly.
I came home to farm in 2008 with my parents, and wheat then was £170 a tonne. We are now in 2026. Wheat is still £170 a tonne. We just can't carry on like this. The government are just going to put us out of business.
But fertiliser is now over £400 a tonne, and a 200 horsepower tractor went from about £50,000 to £150,000. Output price flat for 18 years. Inputs exploding. Machinery tripled. That's not a tough year. That's a business model being strangled. People hear farmers want higher prices and imagine greed. No. This is cost of production. If you're paid below the cost of production, you are not a business. You are a charity with tractors. So when farmers say farm gate prices, they're not asking for champagne. They're asking to stop bleeding. Now connect it to the tax chaos, because here's the chain reaction Labour won't say out loud. Thin margins plus new tax pressure forces asset sales. Asset sales reduce capacity. Reduced capacity cuts domestic output. The gap gets filled from abroad. That's not ideology, that's supply chain physics. Farmers say supermarkets squeeze farm gate prices while shoppers still pay more, so the farmer loses, the consumer loses, and someone in the middle wins. So where is the government when pricing power becomes a chokehold? Where is the regulator, and where is competition? If the government was serious, it would go after the hard part, pricing power, supply chain pressure, contract terms, margin transparency. But no, they pick the easy part. Speeches about support and policies that shift pain downward. When ministers say we stand with farmers, while the numbers say you'll go broke, that isn't support, that's branding. Now let's talk about the slow killer, planning. In Britain, getting permission to build a shed can feel like ordering a pint and receiving it next year. Here's the Clarkson version. You want to build a poultry shed. You fill in a form. Then you fill in another form proving the first form exists. Then you hire a consultant to translate the forms into a language called planning. Then you wait. And while you wait, your costs go up, your kit gets older, and your competitor abroad just builds the shed. The NFU says over £1 billion of investment is stuck because planning doesn't function. Poultry sheds, infrastructure, reservoirs. £1 billion stuck means no modernisation, no productivity gains, no cost control. And planning paralysis doesn't just delay investment, it changes behaviour. If you can't build storage, you can't expand. If you can't expand, you can't get efficient. If you can't get efficient, you can't compete. And then the country imports more food and pretends this is choice. Ministers say food security, but their own system blocks the things that produce food. You cannot feed a country with forms. Now add the next layer, standards and trade. The government tells farmers to raise animal welfare and environmental standards. Fine, farmers will do it. But if trade policy still allows cheaper, lower standard imports to flood in and undercut British producers, then you are punishing the people who do it right. You say raise standards, then you force them to compete with products that didn't pay for those standards. That isn't green, that isn't moral, that's exporting the industry. Because what happens next is predictable. British farmers face higher costs, imported products face lower costs, prices in the middle get squeezed, domestic production shrinks, imports rise, and then the same politicians stand up and say, we must protect food security, as if they didn't just design the system that killed it. If you want higher standards in reality, you need alignment, domestic standards and trade rules that don't reward lower standards, otherwise it's just a label. Now look back at the 3 hits again. Tax, planning, prices. This isn't random, it's a squeeze from 3 sides. And the government's favourite trick is to pretend each side is a separate problem. It isn't, it's one machine. And now the part that tells you everything about this government. How they announce things. They did the U-turn right before Christmas. Parliament recess. News cycle distracted. Less scrutiny. Fewer questions. A confident government doesn't announce like a debtor hiding from the bank. They call it listening. I call it hiding mistakes behind a Christmas tree. Let me be clear. Because common sense matters. Violence is wrong. Targeting innocent people is wrong. But peaceful protest and forcing a government to correct bad policy, that is what democracy looks like when the system stops listening. Now, what should the government do if it actually wanted to save farming without playing politics? 3 simple moves, not slogans. 1. Write inheritance rules that target artificial avoidance, not working farms. If you want to close a loophole, close the loophole, don't punish the job. 2. Fix planning so essential farm infrastructure gets decisions quickly. Reservoirs, sheds, storage. Fast-track the basics. A country that can approve nonsense can approve food production. 3. Align trade with standards. If you demand high standards at home, you cannot reward low standards abroad. Otherwise, you are not raising standards, you're outsourcing them. That's it. Boring, practical, effective. Which is exactly why Westminster hates it. So here's the final question. Do you want a Britain that produces its own food, or a Britain that imports it and hopes nothing goes wrong? Comment below. Subscribe, because if Labour keeps fixing farming like this, 4 AM won't be the exception. It'll be the new normal.